Syracuse football adds a linebacker, and one thing is clear. The Orange are very active in the spring portal window.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, it's mostly going to be Syracuse football, but at the end, there will be some Syracuse basketball news. They did get another visitor on campus, a 6'9" forward, Jaret Valencia. We'll talk about that later on in the show. We'll talk about Syracuse football's offensive line. Even though they already have one commit in Austin Collins, it looks like they're going to add at least one more, perhaps even two more offensive linemen in the spring portal window. But we're going to start the podcast talking about how Syracuse football added to its linebacker room. They get Gary Bryant from South Dakota, plus Syracuse football still interested in Andrew Simpson from Boise State. All that and more here on this edition of Locked On Syracuse. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's get to the latest Syracuse football commit. At the time of recording, it is Wednesday, April 23rd at 12:10 p.m. Eastern. So just keep in mind, by the time you're watching or listening to this podcast, Syracuse could have another commit or two. So just bear with me on that. They add to their linebacking unit. This is not a surprise. Fran Brown has stated publicly that Syracuse football would be pursuing a linebacker, perhaps even multiple linebackers in the spring portal window. And they get South Dakota's Gary Bryant per multiple reports. Bryant is 6'1". He's 230 pounds. He's got multiple years of eligibility remaining. The other teams that were in the mix for Gary Bryant were USC, Cal, and West Virginia. As far as his stats, Gary Bryant is coming off a breakout season for South Dakota. He had over 100 tackles last year, 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. South Dakota actually played Wisconsin last season, and Bryant led every player in that game in tackles with 11 of them. He posted a Pro Football Focus grade last year of 84.5. For those that don't understand Pro Football Focus, it grades players on a scale of 0 to 100. Higher number, the better. And so a grade in the mid-80s, 84.5, is considered to be really, really strong. And overall, Gary Bryant was named an FCS All American last year at South Dakota. So what's his role going to be with Syracuse football? Well, he projects, to me at least, at minimum, as a rotational middle linebacker or weak side linebacker. Syracuse's top 4 linebackers in that department are Derek McDonald and James Hurd. And on the weak side, you got Anwar Sparrow and Antoine Delorier. Bryant, I believe he should fit into that mix of 4 linebackers. Perhaps he could even be the best of the bunch. It's just hard to predict how an FCS player is going to do in the Power 4 level. It's a lot harder to project FCS to Power 4 than it is in basketball projecting a mid-major to a high-major program. I feel like every single year we have so many mid-major players that make the jump, and they are terrific. With FCS to Power 4, it's a little bit more tricky. Is Syracuse done adding to its linebacking unit? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. And what do you think of Syracuse getting Gary Bryant from South Dakota? And where do you see him fitting in this linebacking unit? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. I don't believe that Syracuse football is done adding to their linebacking unit, because they are also in pursuit of elite weak side linebacker Andrew Simpson from Boise State. On3 reported that Syracuse was among the teams that was expected to get a visit from Andrew Simpson earlier this week. The other teams that were involved in him are UNC and Purdue. Those teams are also expected to get visits. On3 literally has Andrew Simpson as the second best player available in the portal right now. They have him as a top 20 overall transfer in the country. Should be noted that 24/7 Sports is considerably lower on him, which I find to be really weird how the two sites are so polar opposites on how they are evaluating players, how one player is considered top 20 transfer overall in the country, and another player isn't even in the top 300 overall in the country. But regardless, even though 24/7 Sports is considerably lower on Andrew Simpson, they do have him as a top 20 linebacker to enter the portal, whether it was in the last cycle or this cycle. So he would be an excellent addition to Syracuse football. And in my thoughts, I think he would immediately be Syracuse's best linebacker on the team. What do you think? Comment in the comment section below. This was someone in 2023 who was an all-conference player. I believe he played in the Mountain West. I think he'd be great. He's got starting experience, all-conference player. I think he's better than what Syracuse has right now. I think he's better than Gary Bryant. It's no disrespect to Gary Bryant or any of the players on Syracuse right now. You get a guy like Andrew Simpson, he can make this defense a whole lot better. And I hope that they are still in pursuit and that getting Gary Bryant doesn't take them out of getting Andrew Simpson. And it shouldn't. You have an opportunity to get someone like this, you got to be able to take advantage of it. I want to hear from you in the comments section below your thoughts on Syracuse's linebacking unit. And should Syracuse add a guy like Andrew Simpson, or would you rather see them pivot elsewhere? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Coming up, we'll stay with Syracuse football, but we're going to talk about the offensive line because right now it's in complete flux. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Syracuse. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Let's talk about Syracuse football's offensive line, because right now it is a really fluid position group on Syracuse football. You can make an argument it's the most fluid position group on Syracuse football because they appear to be completely revamping the offensive line in the spring portal window. David Woolaba and Enrique Cruz have already entered the portal in this cycle. And we actually found out earlier today, Wednesday, April 23rd, that Cody Ornsby is entering the portal. He was getting reps at center. Evidently, he was not going to get the starting job. Now he's in the portal. So Syracuse has lost 3 at least backup offensive linemen in the spring portal cycle. They also lost John Ray Reed in the previous portal cycle. I believe he went to USC. He was the starting center for Syracuse a year ago. The offensive line is ever-changing. So you can't really project the unit right now and what it's going to look like even in fall camp because there are so many players that Syracuse is going after. And the good news is they already have one commit in the boat in this portal cycle. And that was a few days ago. Syracuse landed Louisville guard Austin Collins. For those that don't know anything about Austin Collins, he is considered to be one of the better pass blocking guards in the entire nation. However, he is a below average run blocker. So a little bit one-dimensional, but still, this is someone who has plenty of starting experience. Over the last couple of seasons with Louisville, he has started 14 games. And last year alone, he played over 500 snaps. So whenever you can add an offensive lineman that has started games in the ACC recently and has over 500 snaps from a year ago and from a team that's actually pretty good in the ACC, I would say that is a pretty strong addition for Syracuse football, getting a guy like Austin Collins. He's not perfect, but he is definitely solid. He should come to Syracuse and be a starter. The question is, where is Austin Collins going to start on Syracuse's offensive line? The reason why I mention this is because while he is listed as a guard, Collins did play 25 snaps at center for Louisville last season. Right now, Syracuse's projected starting center is a converted guard from a year ago in Mark Petrie. So perhaps there will be a battle there between Austin Collins and Mark Petrie for the center spot. And maybe it's another reason why Cody Hornsby ultimately entered the portal, because Syracuse envisions that, hey, maybe Austin Collins could be the starting center. Mark Petrie, is going to start at guard. The next thing you know, Cody Hornsby is out the door. Either way, I do think that Mark Petrie and Austin Collins will be starters for Syracuse football's offensive line. But there are more visitors. There are more players that have visited Syracuse on the offensive line or are expected to visit Syracuse going forward. The dates are just a little bit unclear. And that's another reason why Syracuse's offensive line is just ever changing. And it's hard to predict. You got Jalen Matthews. Although Matthews is considered to be a portal visitor, he's a true freshman. Let's talk about Jalen Matthews a little bit more. He was a high-end 3-star recruit, low-end 4-star recruit from New Jersey in the most recent recruiting class. We are talking about 2025. He was a Rutgers signee that recently decided to enter the transfer portal. Syracuse was involved in his recruitment. They didn't get the player originally, but now they have a chance to actually get him. He's on a visit literally today, Wednesday, April 23rd. He's 6'5", 305 pounds. He's a tackle according to 24/7 Sports, and he could be a nice building block for Syracuse football going forward. I don't know if he would come to Syracuse and be a starter right away because he is a true freshman, and particularly on the offensive line, that's really difficult to make that transition. But hey, I would certainly take it. And what are your thoughts in the comments section below on Syracuse's offensive line and getting a guy like Jalen Matthews, I guess, from the transfer portal, but in reality, it's more of another high school signee because he is a true freshman. Also, I visited possible visits going forward. You got Marquise Easley from Georgia. He's already visited, a former 4-star recruit in the 2024 recruiting cycle. He's got 4 years of eligibility left. Yes, I know he does have some trouble with law enforcement, actually pretty recently. But hey, maybe Syracuse is the place that can correct him moving forward. And he does have talent. You don't become a 4-star recruit at Georgia by accident. Maybe Syracuse is the spot for a guy like Easley, and he's got plenty of eligibility left and perhaps could compete for a starting job. You got Onion Irving from Sam Houston. On3 reported that he is expected to take a visit to Syracuse. It's unclear what day. 6'6", 310-pound tackle, 2023 Conference USA All-Freshman team selection. So that's another offensive lineman that Syracuse is rumored to be interested in. And you also got J.B. Nelson from Penn State, and perhaps he's the most intriguing offensive lineman that Syracuse has been connected to so far in this spring portal cycle. 24/7 Sports reported, I believe, last week that Syracuse is expected to get a visit for him, along with Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and Maryland. He is a 6'5", 325-pound guard. He's appeared in 31 games at Penn State over the past 3 years with 8 starts. Hey, starting experience at a Big Ten program like Penn State, even though he was not a full-time starter, I think Syracuse would definitely take that. I think he could be one of the better linemen for Syracuse if he were to commit to Syracuse this upcoming season. The Orange were also in pursuit of Eastern Kentucky's Tyrell Green, but ultimately he committed to Purdue. And there are probably so many more offensive linemen that I am actually missing from this podcast. But the point remains. This offensive line is impossible to project right now. They are looking to add multiple offensive linemen in this spring portal. They already got one in Austin Collins. I would not be surprised if they even add 2 to 3 more offensive linemen. You're not going to get everyone, but the fact that Syracuse is in pursuit of these other players leads me to believe that they're adding multiple offensive linemen in this spring portal cycle. What do you think? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Does Syracuse need to add to its offensive line? Do you think that the unit is already set? What are your thoughts on Austin Collins? Because he's the one player from Louisville that's already in the boat for Syracuse football. I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Coming up, we're going to shift gears. No more Syracuse football talk. We will talk some Syracuse basketball because the Orange recently had another visitor on campus. That's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making it to this point of the podcast. And since you have made it to this point, we still got one more segment to go talking about Syracuse basketball. I hope that means you enjoy the podcast. And if so, if you could just do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, helps the channel grow tremendously to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. Once again, I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse. And let's talk about Syracuse basketball. And you can see the background behind me. It has been changed to reflect that we are talking about basketball now instead of football. Syracuse yesterday, they had a visitor on campus. It was Monmouth forward Jaret Valencia. Valencia is 6'9". He's 180 pounds with multiple years of eligibility remaining. If Jaret Valencia were to commit to Syracuse basketball, he probably projects to be a back-end rotational player. In 2 years at Monmouth, he's averaged about 8 points per game, 48% field goal shooting. That's pretty good. 38% from three-point land, albeit on about 1 attempt per game, but still kind of efficient from Jaret Valencia. The issue with the Valencia is this. His efficiency numbers went down across the board from his freshman year to his sophomore year. A little bit concerning over there on that front, but still, for his career, he's got decent efficiency numbers. He is also a career 58% free throw shooter, so does average 1.5 blocks per game, could be a decent rim protector for Syracuse basketball next season. Bottom line is this. Until proven wrong, and trust me, I hope that I am wrong with what I am about to say, I believe that Syracuse basketball is done adding high-impact transfer portal players. Talking about guys like Nate George and even to a lesser extent Nate Kings. I think they're done making those type of ads because, look, I stalk Twitter pretty much all day. I talk to as many people as possible about what's going on with Syracuse, and they are not connected right now to really any of the elite players that are remaining in the transfer portal. Obviously, that could change, and I would love to be wrong, but right now they are not projected to land any of the elite portal players that remain. They haven't been connected to them at all. And I'm not going to lie to you. I am a little bit frustrated that they're not connected to them. And ultimately, it doesn't matter because you have to land the player anyway. But if you're not connected to them, especially the high-impact guys, you're probably not going to get them because usually that stuff comes out. It just does with those guys. You can try to hide it all you want. Those big-time guys, teams know if you're going after them or not, and they certainly know the player. It's not like a diamond in the rough situation. I'm frustrated because I don't believe at this point Syracuse basketball is a tournament team. And maybe you feel differently. And I want to hear from you in the comment section below if you feel that Syracuse basketball is a tournament team right now on paper. But I don't feel that they are. I believe they are still missing a big-time portal addition. That would make me feel so much more comfortable about this roster heading into next year. I don't believe that they are a Jaret Valencia away from making the NCAA tournament. And that's no disrespect to Jaret Valencia. It's just that I don't believe that he is really the high impact guy that Syracuse basketball needs. He appears to be more of a back end rotational piece. And we'll see if Syracuse ends up getting a guy like Jaret Valencia. But they need to add one more big fish, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. There is at least some good news on that front. Desmond Claude, the USC point guard who averaged, I think, 16 points per game last year, over 4 assists as well. He was a last-minute portal addition. Why am I bringing up a guy like Desmond Claude, who is a point guard, and Syracuse already got a point guard in this transfer portal cycle? Well, Mike McAllister, a 24/7 sports insider for Syracuse, brought him up unprompted earlier this offseason. It was before he entered the portal. It was before Syracuse even got a guy like Nathan George from the transfer portal to play point guard from Georgia Tech. Desmond Claude is interesting because there is a direct connection between him and Syracuse basketball. His mother actually played for Syracuse basketball. How about that? That's a good connection right there. And even though we talk a lot about money here on this podcast, connections help too. I mean, we're still waiting on the official news on Steve Angeli, the quarterback from Notre Dame, committing to Syracuse football. There are a bunch of crystal ball predictions saying that that's going to happen. Part of the reason why that's happening is because his high school coach is the brother of Syracuse quarterback coach Nunzio Campanelli. Relationships and connections do matter in the transfer portal, especially when we're talking about ballpark NIL numbers. So it doesn't hurt that Desmond Claude's mother played for Syracuse basketball. There are obviously a couple of issues with this. Number one, does Syracuse have the money left to be able to go out and spend to make another high-impact addition? Because Desmond Claude would certainly fit that category. He might be Syracuse basketball's best player if they go and get him from the portal. So do they have the money to actually be able to afford him? And number two, he does play point guard. And Syracuse already has a starting point guard in Nathan George, who led the ACC in assists last year and was 12-7 a game. Certainly, he's capable of being a starting point guard for Syracuse next year. That is a high-impact addition, and also someone that's going to eat minutes. He played over almost 35 minutes a game last year. That's really valuable. So what happens? If you get a guy like Desmond Claude, what's the fit? Well, someone would have to move off the ball. They're both in the starting lineup. Someone has to move off the ball. I believe it would be Desmond Claude, but we'll cross that bridge if and hopefully when we get to that situation, because I'm definitely not against adding a talent like Desmond Claude. The only flaw with him is that he's really not a good outside shooter, but other than that, he is a really excellent player and one of the better players overall in college basketball. And I would love to see Syracuse pursue a guy like Desmond Claude. I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Would you want Syracuse basketball to pursue a guy like Desmond Claude? Do you feel that they are a tournament team? I don't think they are yet, but hey, if they add Desmond Claude, I'm predicting Syracuse basketball to make the NCAA tournament. Now, as far as what is coming up here on Locked On Syracuse in the future, we're just going to continue to monitor the portal news, whether it's Syracuse football and Syracuse basketball. As I mentioned, Steve Angeli, the quarterback from Notre Dame, there have been a bunch of crystal ball predictions saying that he is going to end up with Syracuse football. Still hasn't officially happened yet, but we'll keep an eye out for it if and most likely when that does happen. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. You can find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, the NFL Draft is literally starting tomorrow. Do you think that any Syracuse player is going to be drafted in the first round? Kyle McCord, maybe? I don't think so. I think he's going to be a day 2 guy. I don't think we're going to see any Syracuse first-round picks. But hey, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'll be happily wrong if someone from Syracuse goes in the first round of this NFL draft. I think there are going to be 3 ACC players that go in the first round. Obviously, Cam Ward, the the worst kept secret in the world, is going to go number 1 overall, the Tennessee Titans. From Miami, Devin Azaraku from Boston College is probably a first-round pick. And Amarian Hampton from North Carolina, 6 foot, 220, runs a 4.46 40-yard dash. Also can catch passes at a high rate. Yeah, that guy's going in the first round. But hey, hopefully a Syracuse player can be the 4th ACC player that is drafted tomorrow, Thursday, April 24th. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse. Helps the channel grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And don't forget, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. I will see you all again soon.